No? Yeah, feels great. Okay. All right, everybody, we are going to get the show on the road. We're going to get the show on the road. Thank you so much for being here. Wow, what a moment to arrive. What a moment to arrive. Yeah, that is perfect, perfect. Thank you so much. This looks beautiful. This sounds beautiful. It feels beautiful. Thank you all for being here. Happy House of Yes Earth Love Fest. There's 10 million places y'all could have been, but thank you so much for being here. We're going to get started. We're just going to go ahead and jump on in. This conversation is going to be about the role of nightlife in accelerating climate goals. This is my fourth time on this stage for House of Yes Earth Love Fest, and what you're about to see is the evolution of this conversation over the past several years, and now in official partnership with the Office of Nightlife and with a cameo by Project Drawdown. So I'm just going to jump in for y'all real quick. My name is Amer, and three of my favorite hashtags are sustainability, social design, and spirituality. I approach this conversation interweaving those three. These are some organizations, projects that I either created or that I'm a part of, and I am constantly thinking about this question. What does a sustainable future look like, and what is it going to take to get there? So keep all these things in mind, all these themes in mind, and this is what we're going to be touching on over the next 30 to 45 minutes or so. So just to continue just introducing myself a little bit to you, most notably a project that I run called Marketplace of the Future. Anyone ever heard of Marketplace or been to Marketplace of the Future? A couple folks, that's awesome. It is an event during Climate Week in New York City. It is, think about a mini World's Fair that is exclusively focused on promoting solutions to climate change, kind of like Wild Grid here, that is flipping the middle finger to fossil fuels. And we have been running for 10 consecutive years, and this bottom picture right here from the 2026 MOTF DC, I took that photo less than 24 hours ago. My suitcase is literally right here behind Matthew, so it's a very high vibe weekend right now that we are in. We created Pinterest Home of the Future at Marketplace of the Future last year, and in addition to that, I also teach in 2 universities. So this next 30 minutes or so is going to feel a little bit like a classroom as well as a presentation. So I hope you're ready. In addition to that, the reason that this conversation makes sense is I actually come from this stage. I was a full-time nightclub and festival DJ for several years before moving to New York, and I opened for artists, my favorite artists like Chris Lake. I won awards, and it was just super, super awesome. And the stars aligned, and here's that spirituality piece. The stars aligned when I met the Office of Nightlife, and they brought me into the fold to have this conversation about the role of nightlife and climate. So this is what we're going to be exploring today, is how these things intersect, climate and nightlife, and 3 parts to this presentation. Part 1 is thinking about climate goals and solutions with a cameo from Project Drawdown. Can't wait for y'all to meet Hannah. Part 2 is going to be about the role of nightlife in the climate movement, and I'm going to talk to you about the Office of Nightlife grant. You're actually going to hear Jeffrey talk a little bit about that in a second. And then part 3 is what we've done with this grant that you're about to learn about and how y'all can get involved. Because there's no way this happens without community integration. So right now, I would like to bring to the stage Jeffrey Garcia, who is our head of the Office of Nightlife in New York. Come on up here, Jeff.
I guess I gotta. Ooh, I hate it.
There you go.
How's everybody doing?
There you go.
Well, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. There's one to click, the other one's my speed.
If you want me to click for you, let me know.
You guys will, hold me down. How's everybody doing? Good? Yeah. Beautiful Sunday, right? It started off a little rainy this morning, but it ended up being a beautiful day. The vibe outside is amazing. So thank you all for coming out. My name is Jeff. Well, let me thank you, yeah. Right? And DJ Sustainability. I like it. My name is Jeffrey Garcia, Executive Director at the Office of Nightlife here in New York City. How many people know about the Office of Nightlife? That we even exist? A lot of people don't. Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we do.
Nice.
Well, first, if you want to reach us, we highly, highly recommend that you go on your social media and follow us, right? At Nightlife Gov, NYC Nightlife Gov. Right? If you have any emails, you need to reach us for anything, please email me. I'll also give out my number to all those who want to contact me as well. So what is the Office of Nightlife? We're a dedicated non-enforcement liaison between the industry and city government. We're like your eyes and ears. We are your advocates within city government. And we have 4 pillars that we work off of. Supporting business development, improving quality of life and community relations. Right? I work very closely with the electeds in this area, a lot of the venues, right? To help with a lot of issues between the community and the venues. There's a lot going on with food trucks and street vendors and the venues and sound at night. So this is part of the work that we do to kind of bridge all these folks together. So why is nightlife important to our government? It's important, right? For New York City, it's a $35 billion industry. It employs over 300,000 people, right? And it supports, right, the visitors that come here. Over 65 million visitors visit New York. Well, I was in a conference in Spain a couple of years ago, and they said that 1 in every 3 tourists that goes to visit a location looks at what nightlife is in that area where they're going. So that's why it's so important, right, to the ecosystem of our city, right? And we're the city that never sleeps, right? Right? Is everybody tired? Come on. We're the city that never sleeps, right? But nightlife places aren't just a place where people just go and dance and hang out. Like, this is where people create friends, families, find loved ones, right? Go to decompress. You know, I always say, you know, everybody talks about happy hour at 5 o'clock, but guess what? That nurse that leaves her job at 2 a.m. in the morning after a long shift, guess when her happy hour is? Maybe at 2 in the morning. And that's why it's so important to have a space for everyone here in the city, right? So that they can go and have that drink or talk to that bartender or even dance for a little bit here in New York. And that's what makes New York City great. Nightlife sustainability. We love the fact that my office, even before I came in, already had a relationship with Amer. I've been glad to work with him, to meet him. We even did a walk through this location, right, when we first met to talk about sustainability and what we can do in nightlife to make sustainability better. And you're gonna hear probably from other folks here, I know at other events, about plastics and, you know, reusable plastics and, not plastics, reusable cups, right, to get away from using plastics. And we'll talk about some of the work that the city has done also to remove plastics from nightlife and restaurants. But we've been happy to work with Amer and really look at ways to lower emissions, save energy, save money, attract new eco-friendly action for businesses to take. And for the patrons, right, to build awareness. They can also take action beyond the dance floor and inspire change. And like I said, with things like those reusable cups, I think it's amazing, you know, the work that they do and how that really helps us really change the planet. So what has the city done? You know, we had the first ever sustainability event. We passed legislation like Skip the Stuff, which basically removes or plastics from like your orders, right? It doesn't mean that you can't get them, but you ever order Chinese and all of a sudden you get, you know, your order and you have like 25 forks, 50 soy sauces that you end up having to put in your fridge, right? That's the type of stuff that this is there to fix, right? It doesn't mean that you can't get them. It doesn't mean that you can't request them. It just means that they're not going to automatically just be put in. And they're going to ask you, the restaurant's going to ask you, how many do you need, right? So that whatever you need is what you use. And that stuff doesn't just go into the garbage and then into our waters, right? Where, you know, we can obviously cause damage to our planet. So one of the things we did last year, which I'm very proud of, was we were able to secure some funding to give out grants to nonprofits here in the city, all across our city. Whether it's in the space of sustainability, whether it was in harm reduction, whether it was to bring back jazz in Harlem. We were very proud to work with and grant 11 folks grants of up to $40,000 to really get that work out there and to really expand our nightlife culture through nonprofits. And that's Amer, one of our grantees. Big round of applause. And we're hopeful, right, that out of this is going to continue the great work that he's doing, and that we're going to be able to show that this year and hopefully get some more funding, not just for Amer, but for many of the other grantees and new grantees to continue the great work here in our great city. That was then Commissioner Gross, who was the commissioner at Small Business Services. Our office is housed under Small Business Services. So in addition to the services that we provide, we could also help you and your small businesses, not just nightlife. So if you have any issues, if you have any business and you need any help, please reach out to me as well. I want to now bring back Amer to take the stage. I want to thank everybody for your time. And again, let me give you my number, 646-842-2770, 646-842-2770. Reach out to us. And again, if you need any help with any business, not just nightlife, please reach out to Amer or reach out to me. And we got you. Thank you.
I love it. I know, you did great. It was very graceful. You did a great job. Thank you, Jeff. Y'all, one more round for Jeff and his kids.
All right, don't turn around. Don't turn around. Why you gonna sit? Let me see. They get a scene.
I love it. Thank you, Jeff. So cool. And I hope everybody heard that part about the more funding, right? So hopefully we'll get to that at some point. But okay, now that you got a context about the Office of Nightlife, let's really dive into how this intersects with climate and why we're all here at the House of Yes today. So this is part one of today's presentation, which is climate goals, solutions, and backcasting, with a cameo from Project Drawdown coming up shortly. So how many of y'all are familiar with this framework? Quick show of hands. Okay, awesome. Well, if there's really one thing that we take away from today, it's that this framework exists. This is called the Planetary Boundaries Framework, and you can think of each of these slices of the pie as one of Earth's organs. And you see, climate change is one of those slices of the pie. You also have freshwater change, ocean acidification, stratospheric ozone, and all of these sort of things. These are all global goals. So I don't care if you're a nonprofit somewhere, I don't care if you're a corporation, I don't care if you're in city government, your goal, if you are talking about sustainability and climate, will line up to this framework, period. So you can put that in your pocket and just sort of rest assured that you now have a benchmark to think about sustainability. Anyone that's talking about that, their goals should line up to this framework right here. And so we're going to take a look at one of these more in depth, and that's climate change, specifically by looking at this chart. Quick show of hands if this chart is familiar. Okay, yeah, maybe like 10% of the group. So what we're looking at here, we're going to break this down. This is a chart of rising and falling greenhouse gas emissions. And we're going to look at this piece by piece, and this is going to segue into our conversation about how nightlife can accelerate these climate goals. So first, let's look at the left side of this chart. The rising line right there is defined by the Industrial Revolution. Is driven by the Industrial Revolution, when humanity started making stuff. The right side shows different possible futures, some red, some green, some blue. And the sobering reality of the moment, my friends, is that 1.5 degrees Celsius is the target that we do not want the world The globe should not warm more than 1.5 degrees Celsius, but the sobering reality is that it will. That's pretty much the general scientific consensus, that the world will warm more than 1.5 degrees Celsius. Now the question remains is whether or not we stay there. So that's, I think, the right articulation and the right framing of emissions and global average temperatures. It will breach 1.5, but will it stay there? That is the role of humanity over the next 5, 10, 15 years, is to get that number back down. And not to mention that the administration in the control panel of this nation seems to be a little delusional in the wrong direction. So some of the forces are playing against our favor. Nonetheless, we persist. So this is a simplified chart of that more complex chart. And we also see different scenarios of, different future scenarios of emissions, right? Red, green, and blue. So for the purposes of this conversation, we're gonna focus on that blue star. One thing that I really like to say to my friends, my students, this is the kind of the spirituality piece, is that energy flows where attention goes. Energy flows where attention goes. So I'm interested in what that blue star looks like. What does the future look like when we've solved this problem? Can we give ourselves permission to imagine that? So that blue star is what we're talking about here. And then the next step there is like, well, what are the indicators of that future around us today? Because they are. And if you've been here today, you've probably interacted with a lot of them. And this is what we mean by future meets present. So this is the name of my organization, Future Meets Present. And it's really based on this idea that what does the desired future look like, and what does that future look like as it's expressing itself in the present? And this way of thinking is known as backcasting. This is another subject that's taught in my syllabus at Parsons, and it's a really good framework that I want to offer y'all. Also put this in your pocket. Backcasting is a strategic planning framework that reverses forecasting. So if you're forecasting something, say you're standing in the present and you want to think about what the future looks like, forecasting is when you're looking around and you're saying, all right, cool, well this and this is happening over here, so we forecast that that's going to happen over there. Backcasting is the reverse. Backcasting goes, all right, what's the desired future? Wow, good job on the spotlight. That's impressive. So backcasting says, this is the future, we're already here, we're in the future, we're looking around. What's the desired future that we want, and what are the preconditions required to connect the present and future? So, backcasting framework is a strategic planning method that starts by defining a desirable future goal, the vision, and works backward to the present to identify the necessary steps, policies, and actions required to achieve it. And this is what it looks like. We're gonna get a little technical here. If you do have your phones, I encourage you to take a photo of this. Definitely very useful. And I'm going to be referring to this several times over the next 20 minutes. So what you see here is a co-created long-term vision of the future. It serves as a magnet, drawing stakeholders to it. And over here, different types of projects are linked to each other via mid- and long-term co-created visions. These ecologies of projects and initiatives become steps along the transition pathway toward the desired future. So just keep this in mind. We're going to be referring back to this in a bit. Backcasting, okay? And it's interesting because, yes, and then back to this framework, the planetary boundaries framework. Rest assured knowing that when we're talking about climate, the long-term vision is that green zone, the safe operating space. That's our desired future. If you care about sustainability, if you care about the planet, again, I don't care if you're a nonprofit, if you're a corporation, if you're in government, whatever. Our goal is that green zone, period. As my high school teacher, Mr. Estrada, used to say, period.amenhallelujah.com. I can't believe that's still burned in my brain. God bless. So that's our desired future. Long-term visions is that green zone. And you're seeing pieces of this ecology of that desired future expressing themselves right outside. And it's really beautiful. I think thinking about things this way creates really a sense of cohesion and camaraderie that exists amongst all these ecologies. And if you think about it too, backcasting is something that we actually do naturally whenever we think about planning a vacation. We think about what's the desired experience that we want. and how do we plan our way to get there? So what's our desired future, and how do we plan our way to get there? So can we do that in a way that's focused on climate, thinking about the desired future? What are the preconditions to get there? So the 3-point questions to ask: what's our desired future? What are the indicators of that future around us today? And what are the pathways to get there? And now to answer these questions, we first must know the sources of emissions. What's this line right here? We talked about the Industrial Revolution as a driver of emissions, but we can get a little bit more specific than that. This right here is a few different ways to interpret this question, the different sources of emissions. It's definitely a complex problem, but this is a pretty good starting point. And if you are taking pictures, I encourage you to take another one of this. This pie chart represents the categories, the sectors of the economy that are responsible for driving the world's emissions. And this is a little bit more of a vision what that looks like. So you think about it, how we eat, how we grow our food, what we do with the food that we don't eat, industry, manufacturing, transportation, buildings, and electricity production. That other 10% is connected to electricity production. And then there is a much more fine-tooth visualization of that data. So now we know the sources of emissions. And I want you to look at this, and I want you to think of this, treat this as a map of the future, because the organizations that are creating solutions to this are the organizations that live in that green zone. That's how we think about this. The orgs that are creating solutions to this are the orgs that will be normal in our desired future. And knowing the sources of emissions means we can identify the sources of solutions. And to tell you a little bit more about that, I'm super happy to introduce you to Hannah Schoen from Project Drawdown, the Senior Creative Manager, and she's going to dive in way deeper on this pie chart for you. And she has her own mic.
Thank you, Amer.
Yes.
I'm not attempting to
here.
bottle bonus these. Okay.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, perfect.
So Project Drawdown is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that's dedicated to informing the public about climate solutions. But although we are science-based and the majority of our team is made up of scientists who are experts in their field, we don't actually believe that science is the biggest challenge to solving climate change, because we have all the reports, all of the studies, decades of data. The biggest challenge is getting this science into the hands of the visionaries like Amer, folks in policy, boots on the ground, logistics folks, community organizers, getting them this information in a way that they can actually use it to implement their vision of a positive climate future. So we built the Drawdown Explorer to do just that. The Explorer is the world's premier database of climate solutions. So our scientists have studied those reports, they've analyzed all of that data to build the clearest picture yet of a suite of solutions, what works, some of what doesn't, and that when taken together will help us reach drawdown, that point in time where carbon comes out of the atmosphere and we can start to reverse or mitigate some of the effects of climate change. And the Explorer is built for those who are ready to take action. So what you'll find is a range of interactive tools, features that show clearly the amount of emissions, potential climate impact, the cost or no cost to implement, maps. You can really drill down to see where solutions can be most effective, as well as the co-benefits of these solutions, benefits beyond just climate. So taking Amer's Sustainable Nightlife Initiative, right? Consider everything that goes into the NYC nightlife experience. We've got the building that we're in, the lights that we're all vibing with. How did you arrive at the show? What food or drink are you having while you're out? Using the Explorer, you can then filter these solutions by sector, so then you can see all of the ways that the building can be more sustainable, all of the ways that transportation can be more sustainable, and same with food, same with a whole series of sectors right there. So then depending on your unique circumstances of your business, what works for you, you can consider how to start implementing these climate solutions. So here's a possible portfolio of solutions. Amer, I'm doing this, I've got the work done, I've done it. So, is it installing heat pumps? Is it offering more plant-based food options? A lot of times it's the unsexy solutions like refrigerants. So if you're looking to upgrade your kitchen, there's opportunities throughout. Actually, when it comes to transportation, Mamdani's initiative for fast and free buses, that's a climate solution because it makes public transport more accessible to more people, reducing the need for single-person vehicles. So take it together or one by one as you're able. These solutions add up to big emissions. And I mentioned earlier, the section that I really love in the Explorer is these co-benefits. So we've identified 18 additional co-benefits beyond the climate benefit within each solution. So 3 categories: climate adaptation, human well-being, environment. So for example, eating plant-based is an extremely powerful climate solution. It's also great for human health and of course animal well-being. Improving public transportation that clears the air for us all. And when we, if we install solar or heat pumps, that saves you money on utilities eventually, or sooner than that. So, and of course, when we start electrifying and we stop depending on oil, it moves us one step closer to a peaceful world, which I think is really the point of all of this. So just to expand a little bit beyond nightlife for a second. So here in beautiful New York, it's not just about the concrete jungle, which we love, but it's also about safeguarding our wetlands, which protect us from storms, stewarding the ocean, which is currently absorbing 90% of excess heat. It's a lot. Ending food waste so that we're not throwing away precious resources while people go hungry in the streets or our neighbors suffer in silence. Connecting climate solutions back to what people care about is very critical, I think, if we want to build our movement beyond this climate niche. So we can do that by showing the real world, often immediate impacts that these solutions will have on our day-to-day well-being. And then lastly, so I'm going to do a quick plug for 2 more tools that could be useful on your climate journey. So here you'll see a tool called Carbon in Context. And this is a new tool that converts obscure emissions data, like 1 gigaton of methane, what is that? Into everyday items that people can understand, like a cross-country flight or cups of coffee. So it's great for those working in climate communications who want to better connect with their audience, and also great for spotting greenwashing. And then for those who are looking to take individual action, Shift is a science-based quiz that gives you the top actions that you could take depending on your unique circumstances, like education level, location, where you live, income. So everything from voting to divesting from fossil fuels is covered. So it's a great place to start on your personal climate journey. So yes, I invite you all to take a look at the Explorer and these other tools and see how they might connect to your work and your passion. If you're a journalist or a creator, you could find your next story here. Like this just happened in the Washington Post. They saw that refrigerants are an outside source of emissions, so they wrote an article on it. If you work in policy, you can use the Explorer to connect to issues that your constituents actually care about. And especially if you're a startup or an investor, don't waste your time with overhyped solutions that won't move the needle. You can check out the Explorer to see what solutions, the real impacts before you invest. So I'll just end with some good news, which is that in doing this research, our scientists, were telling us they were surprised to see how many of these solutions are actually, are being implemented at scale and having major positive effects already. So if you have a vision for a positive climate future, whether it's globally or on your block or in your own home, let Project Drawdown be your guide to the science so that you can start taking action. Thanks, everybody.
That's adorable. Very, very good. All right, we good over here? Check, check. Nice. Okay, cool. So I'm really glad that everybody now knows about Project Drawdown. This is, for all of my work, our single source of truth, or our primary source of truth, rather, to help demystify what climate solutions look like. So we're going to keep this moving here now. Again, back to this point that knowing the sources of emissions means we can identify the sources of solutions, as you've now seen demystified over the last 5 minutes. And again, we can now color in the lines even more on what those ecologies and projects look like. So the orgs that are creating those solutions are the orgs that will be normal in that green zone that we see over there. Cool. Just a quick pulse check. How are we doing? Yeah? I know we're like, this is, pretty like scholastic here for House of Yes, but as long as we're all on the same page. All right, good, good. I see a lot of really smiling faces, a lot of familiar faces. Good to see you guys. I'm so happy that everyone's here. This is great. So now moving on, with this context, this beautiful context that Hannah just shared with us, you can look at articles like this, and this, and this, and be able to contextualize them. Because content without context is just fragmented information. But now that we know what the solutions to emissions need to look like, we can look at articles like this and make sense of them and how they're participating and how their role is in getting us to that blue star. Okay, great. So, I had my pause a moment ago, but are we okay? Are we doing all right? Okay, cool. So let's keep going. Now that we have covered emission sources, emission solutions, and we've covered backcasting, let's get to part 2, which is the role of nightlife in climate movement and the origins of the nightlife climate constellation. And I think we're running a little bit short on time, so I'm going to keep this nice and breezy for you. So first question, why nightlife? Okay, there's going to be some music coming in the next couple slides, so prepare yourself. So why nightlife? Prodigy, 250,000 people, 0 cell phones, sheer raw energy. Skrillex, my favorite, number 1. You can turn it up a tiny bit. And recently, some heart, some soul, connecting with our child selves. Yes. How historic was that? Just a laptop at Coachella. Totally challenged the norms of what big production looks like, right? But he infused it with heart and soul connecting with his child self. So why nightlife? Because of pure energy. Because of peace, love, unity, and respect. Because of plur. Because of authentic self-expression. Because of transformative experiences. All of this, the foundation is that nightlife has culture-changing capacity. And that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about harnessing this culture-changing capacity to accelerate climate goals. And now this is something that I've been extremely fortunate. I have a very intimate relationship with this. This was, again, my life before this whole conversation started, back in Las Cruces and El Paso, Texas. And if you would have told 19-year-old Amer that someday he'd be here rubbing shoulders with Jeffrey Garcia and Hannah and you guys on stage at the House of Yes, he actually might have believed you. Nonetheless, this is how the conversation started. It started with this question: how might we make nightclubs more sustainable? But I realized that that question feels a little bit too small. And so now we can really frame this topic and frame this conversation even better, which is, how might nightclubs make the world more sustainable? Nightlife inherently creates positive energy. So how do we manifest that in a climate context? How might we harness nightlife's culture-changing capacity to accelerate New York City's higher-order climate goals? Now that's a question. That's the question. I think that's the right question. I think that's the appropriate question that meets the moment and the urgency that we do need to meet that moment. So let's explore this a little bit more. What are New York City's higher order climate goals? Well, we know how to answer that because we know what global goals look like. So back to these solutions, back to this chart. This is global, and this is New York City's. You'll see that one of those categories, that dark blue one, is much larger than the rest. Does anyone want to guess what that category is? So these are the global categories: buildings, transportation, industry, food and agriculture, electricity. They're going to be the exact same in New York, but different proportions. What is that dark blue one? Any guesses? Buildings. Nailed it. 70% of the emissions in this city come from the building sector. Just think about a drone aerial footage flying over Manhattan, flying over New York City. It really is a concrete jungle. So that means knowing the sources of emissions means knowing the sources of solutions. So from here, we jump to looking at these things. These are gas burners. They're large, medium, and small, and they're the reason that that number is 70%. So when we're thinking about the solutions, we can look and see, well, what does state policy and legislation look like, and what does city policy and legislation look like? This is at the state level, this is at the city level, and we see the language reflecting the needs. So yes, indeed, we do see city and state policy aligning with higher order climate solutions. So see, okay, we're weaving through a lot, right? There's like a lot. If you would have just walked in right now and looked at this slide, you would have been like, dude, what the hell are we talking about? But like, how's that through line? Are we feeling okay? Are we connecting the dots? Cool, thank you. I see some heads nodding. Great, okay, good. Thank you. And again, back to this chart, we know that a long-term vision is that green zone, and we see policies like this helping those midterm visions come to life. And now, even though at the federal level we have fill in the blank, at the city level, we have someone that gets it, finally. So what this means then, what I'm interested in is a little bit of a different question. What are New York City climate goals, the big ones? And how might we harness nightlife's cultural influence to accelerate those goals? So it's less of... Good job, past self. So the conditions are converging. We know nightlife creates culture. We know 70% of emissions come from buildings. And if you think about it, a nightclub is a building. So reduce emissions from a nightclub, and you've got a perfect Trojan horse to galvanize a movement. You see where we're going with this. And this is a movement that's already started. It's a movement that's building dance floors around the world, especially in Europe, powered by dance. Coldplay and Billie Eilish holding the torch for sustainable concerts. Amazing, amazing. It's piercing the collective consciousness. It's happening. This is an organization called Sound Future, which is actually the nonprofit fiscal sponsor for my grant. They have a program called Surf and Turf, where ticket sales fund environmental restoration programs like coral reefs and mangroves. This is Bye Bye Plastic, founded by this amazing DJ named Blondish that's disrupting the foundation, the disruptive foundation removing single-use plastics in the music industry. They started in, what does it say? It says somewhere here, in France in 2023, 1 million single-use plastic items removed. You see all these statistics. They're doing really awesome work. They're a partner of the Nightlife Climate Constellation, and they work by cultural, building ecosystems within culture, artists, DJs, and fans. Venues take pledges to eliminate single-use plastics, building that network, and then the movement, which is where we come in. So now we're approaching part 3, which is our final part, the Nightlife Climate Constellation. So excited to share this with y'all. So excited to share this with y'all. So again, how might we harness nightlife's cultural changing capacity to accelerate New York City higher order climate goals? We're going to do it through 3 steps. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but you will be able to stay in touch and join our info sessions after this. So step 1 is mapping nightlife venues in Bushwick and how they align to New York City climate goals, identify climate champions and define potential impact, and 3, educate the public. So this is what that looks like. Part 1, we're building a topology of nightlife venues in Bushwick. We want to understand the different building types, networks, audiences, and how those venue operations align to New York climate goals. We want to make it informative, educational, and inspiring. Because now you know what climate solutions look like on a global level. So what do they look like on a city level, and how does a building like this align to those solutions, and then harness that capacity, that culture-changing capacity that's happening out there. We feel that base right now to educate everybody about these things. So sick. So part 2 is identifying venues that want to be climate leaders but don't know how. And this is what Jeffrey was saying earlier. We actually got up on the rooftop of this building, of the House of Yes, a couple of times. This is where we look at the electric bills, gas bills, technical drawings, and we understand their energy usage, gas, electric. We want to bring solar HVAC technicians and waste audits. We want to define what's called the current state and the desired state. How much electricity are they using now? How much natural gas are they using now? And then what's the desired state? And this is where, again, we demystify what's possible, showing the economic and ecological ROI. And we show how a constellation of venues can collectively align to higher order climate goals. How are we doing? Feel okay? Yeah. Nice. Thank you. Awesome. And again, back to this framework, the backcasting framework, this ecology of solutions, of venues, of partners, are all different projects linked, aligned to that long-term vision, which is our green zone. Cool. And then part 3, build a playbook of public-facing educational experiences, content, events, communities to orient society towards the futures that we want. Imagine being at a club and dancing, and the laser light show is designed to trace how electricity moves through the walls or how natural gas is moving through the walls. You wouldn't really know the difference. You're just like dancing and you're looking up, you're seeing the light show. But if you did pay attention, you would see that the laser light show goes back to a dashboard that's showing you how much natural gas or how much electricity is being used right now. Imagine. And now this all folds into this idea of the nightlife climate constellation, which includes partners like Sound Future, like Bye Bye Plastic Foundation, like DJs for Climate Action. It includes bouncers, it includes venues, it includes landlords, it includes you, and 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 you. That's why it's called a constellation. So here's where we're at so far, and we're gonna wrap up here in the next couple of minutes. I have to introduce my team. This is Gabriel Fernandez and my buddy Evan Schulman. I think they're watching the live stream right now. So as a team, plus our ally Claude, are working together to take all of this information, stuff that's part of the syllabus at Parsons, New York City and state legislation, drawdown frameworks, planetary boundaries, emission sources, building classifications. We're taking all of this and we're aggregating it, we're synthesizing it into a report that's called The Ground Truth for the Nightlife Climate Constellation. And I'm just gonna give you a tiny little preview of what this research has shown us so far. So we have 5 pillars of NCC climate action. We have a topology matrix and design principles. For the purposes of today, I'm just gonna show you the pillars that all seek to answer this question. So we have 5 pillars. This is just a screenshot, but I have pretty versions for you in a second. 5 pillars of NCC climate action. So the first one, and this is this is for a venue owner. Imagine you're a venue owner, you know that you have thousands of people that walk through your door every week, and you're like, cool dude, like, what do I do? How do I be a bright spot in this climate constellation? What do I do? So we have 5 pillars. And the first one is related to building and energy. So this is where we're thinking about this physical freaking thing. we're thinking about rooftop solar, we're thinking about battery storage, we're thinking about removing the gas burner, installing an electric heat pump, we're thinking about rooftop gardens, the building envelope and insulation, we're thinking about building related things. So that's pillar number 1. Okay? Pillar number 2 is supply chain and materials. Usually the conversation starts here actually. This is where we're talking about the cups, we're talking about the straws, the composting, we're talking about the procurement, who are our suppliers of our alcohol, our cleaning products, how do we evaluate our supply chain and make sure that all of those things are what we call drawdown aligned. Part 3 is our community and our finance. So if we can incentivize, for example, a club to work with a fossil-free bank or sign up to a community solar project, this is where the actions of the nightclub transcend the single venue and start working more collectively with the community. Pillar number 4, this is really the heart of what this project is all about, and it's that narrative, culture, and disclosure piece. What if you go around to all these different nightlife venues and you see an NCC logo in the window and you know, oh, that means that this venue is doing something. What are they doing? So this is where nightlife leverages its culture-changing capacity. And we're talking about the visualizations behind the DJ booth, the messages in their email campaign, the texts that people receive before they come to the venue, all of those things. The power of nightlife in that narrative and culture change. And the final one is policy advocacy. So here we see how venues align to the higher order climate goals that you all now know so well because I've said them like 49,000 times already today. And here's a quick little demonstration of how these all can come together visually in an interactive map where you can see little nodes of venues and you can see which of these pillars is each of these venues embracing right now. So this is just a demonstration, but you can see how it all comes together. Personally, it looks freaking sick to me. Whenever I saw this for the first time, Gabe demoed it the other day, I was like, yo dog, you and Claude, crushing it. So y'all are the first to see this ever. Please remember this, and whenever we start filling it with real data, it's gonna happen, okay? All right, so now what's next, my friends? And we're gonna close out because I know the organizers are like, dude, get him the hell off stage. What's next? So now we want to connect with more venues, we want to build our street team, and we absolutely want your feedback. So here is some screenshots from some info sessions that we've had over the last couple of months of people that just want to learn more, want to get involved. So this could be you. I want this to be you. There's no reason this cannot happen without a collective effort. This is a constellation. And we've identified a few different roles that volunteers can take, that people in the constellation can take. Maybe you feel like you're a connector and you want to get out there, talk to people, introduce us to venues. Maybe you're like, oh, I don't really want to talk to anybody, but I'm down to do some research and kind of sit at the computer and help you guys do some stuff. Great. Maybe you're a content creator, maybe you're a DJ or a photographer or a videographer, and you want to contribute your work to animating and bringing the climate constellation to life. We've got room for everybody. Maybe you're thinking of something that I have not even thought of yet. Oh, whoa, that's my last slide. On that note, my friends, we are finished. And please, the obligatory QR code, it just takes you to a 2-question survey where you can just quickly provide your feedback. And if you do want to actually get involved, there's a checkbox there for you to be able to do so. So on that note, thank you for listening. Big round of applause for Hannah and for Jeffrey and House of Yes and for yourselves for being here. Thank you for having me. We're a little bit over time, but we're done. Thank you. Thank you. Take care. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, it's off. Oh, you can turn it back on. There you go.